Many of the biggest names in the men's game are teeing it up in this week's WGC Mexico Championship. In fact, if you take a look at the official world golf ranking, 7 of the top 10 are in the field, including defending champion Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, Jon Rahm, and world number 1, Rory McIlroy. He's coming off a tie for 5th finish in last week's Genesis Invitational, and Rory entered the final round with a share of the 54-hole lead. However, he carded 3 birdies, 2 bogeys, and 1 triple bogey to shoot a 2-over round of 73. Before his week began at Riviera, Rory spoke to the media about his mentality, even when he doesn't record a win. He said in part, "I think you have to look for positives every time you leave a tournament, whether it's a top 10 or a win or even a missed cut. You have to be an eternal optimist in this game. My top 10 rate is something I'm proud of and something that I want to keep going." So you walk away from tournaments like that feeling like it's a mini victory in a way. You can hold your head high and go. I got everything I could out of what I had this week. Despite the loss on Sunday, Rory has now finished in the top 5 in each of his last 4 worldwide starts. So Robert, Rory uses the term mini victory. Is that how you would assess his top 5 at Riviera?
For someone like Rory, it's hard to say a mini victory. I mean, we hold him to high standards. I'm sure he holds himself to equally as high standards. Being the fact that he was in the final group, he was tied for the lead very early on, and after the triple never got it back. It's got to be disappointing in a way, but the way he phrased it in the beginning of his press conference there, I try to look for positives. There are plenty of positives. So yes, in that sense, it is a mini victory, and I think he's smart enough and well-versed enough in the sport to know that any loss, because that's what you do pretty much on the PGA Tour, you lose a whole lot on the occasional wins. You have to take the positives away, and he's smart enough to know that, and he's smart enough to do that. So this is in no way sets him back whatsoever.
No, not at all. And in fact, I feel like you learn more in these situations, in the not perfect rounds, in the rounds that you have made mistakes, because it gives you opportunities to learn and to get better. And I think that's where professional golfers have really separated themselves from, the average golfer, is that you look at a mistake and you see it as an opportunity. And I think that's something that Rory McIlroy has been able to do throughout his career.
Do you agree, Damon, with the record that Rory has and the quality of a player that he is, that a T5 is a mini victory?
Not all top 5s are created equal.
True.
Some are mini victories. Sunday at Riviera was not a mini victory for Rory McIlroy. When you consider among the top 10 players, his 73 was the highest score shot on Sunday. He was in the final group. He had a tie for the lead. He had a very good opportunity and went wanting here, and specifically on that 5th hole, the par 4. I think in general, you want to take positives, and you should draw positives from a strong week, from good play. When you don't get the victory, well, what did you do well? Maybe you improved in your strokes gained tee to green, or your strokes gained putting, or whatever, your comfort level in the heat. Depending on what your level is as a PGA Tour player, Rory is among the best. I can see some 3rd place finishes or 5th place finishes or 9th place finishes being positive. I have trouble finding much positive in this top 5 versus some others.
I believe he's going to easily be able to write the 73 off, you said, of the top 10, the highest score on Sunday, because the greens were, frankly, so impossible to putt.
That was for everybody, though.
No, it's true. And he still had, it's all a mind game. You're trying to trick yourself into being the best you can, and
I have no
that's
problem
part of
with
being
his
a professional golfer.
I have no problem with his big picture view on top 5s being mini successes. I don't think Riviera on Sunday was one of those.
But I'm saying because the greens are so hard to putt, maybe he doesn't see it as a mini success, but he can absolutely write it off as not a setback.
Oh, he has to make deals with himself as all athletes
every time. But
do.
this one's easier, because the greens were impossible to putt.
Paige, what did you make of his comment about saying that there's an element of randomness when it comes to winning? Sometimes you catch a lucky break, sometimes it's not in your control. Would you agree with that?
I think most people would agree with that. You watch in your own game, or you watch with somebody else, it hits a tree, and instead of going out of bounds, it goes back in the fairway. And it's some way it feels like this is your day if that happens. So I think a lot of us kind of look at golf gods have something to do with outcomes sometimes, but it also takes the pressure off when you say, hey, I can only control what I can control. I can't control what other people do. I can only control my game and how I execute shots, not even how the result ends up.
Tiger said it's about winning. Second sucks. Third is even worse. He didn't win every week. He doesn't win every week. He finished dead last on Sunday. I don't think that Rory has to apologize for his mentality. I think most players would be happy with top 10s, top 5s.
Sure.
But we're going to talk about mini successes. This one doesn't qualify, in my mind, as a mini success.
See, my framework would say he put himself in a position where he had a bad day and still ended up 5th. He played that good early in the week. So to me, there is like
It's not an opportunity missed, though, an opportunity lost as the newly minted number 1. I'm just saying, I don't want to compare him to the Joe Smith 70th ranked player in the world.
Even you just said it with Tiger Woods. Golf is full of opportunity lost. Every tournament you don't win is an opportunity lost, especially when you're as good as Rory McIlroy. So if he let that get him down, he would have been long retired.
Yeah, but I don't think he's celebrating.
What's the alternative? If he doesn't walk in there and say, hey, this is a mini success, what's the alternative? What should his framework be?
I think his framework should be disappointment on Sunday, and I believe it is disappointment. It doesn't mean he can't say, well, I hit the ball really good. My game is peaking. I'm right where I want to be in terms of big picture things I want to accomplish for 2020. But I would hope that it would be a little bit of bile in his mouth on Sunday.
That's not productive.
You
mentally,
can't carry it with you.
It's not productive.
He is disappointed. I mean, there's no question.
You
He might not voice it, but you can't carry it with you.
Can you be self-critical and say, you know what, next time I want this to be better?
In a positive way. Critiquing someone.
He shouldn't be whistling Dixie down Sunset Boulevard on Sunday evening.
I don't think that I think he's very clear in his self-evaluation. But I think if you carry disappointment with you, it is demoralizing in this game. So I don't think that's the proper emotion to have in a situation.
I think it's
especially if you
though.
vocalize the disappointment, it becomes even
that
more
sound,
disappointing.
That sound was before the tournament. If you'd asked him if this was a mini success on Sunday evening, I mean, he said, hey, you know what? But for one bad hole, I was right there. But for a player of his ilk as the number 1 player in the world, I imagine when he shut the door in his courtesy car on Sunday, he was like, doggone it, that was an opportunity at a very prestigious event that I should have performed a little bit better and done a little bit better. If he wasn't if you're not the number 1 player in the world, how else could you're supposed to think?
I think that's 100% real. I'm sure that he would take away and say, like, I wish I would have taken advantage of the opportunity that I had in front of me. But at the same time, when he looks at it, he can't sit there and sulk and say, I really blew it. He's got to say, you know what, I put myself in a position, I played 1 under other than those couple of holes, which is what he said, and takes the positives away.
Sounds too much like a guy at the bar after finishing, at the 19th hole and say, man, if I had come up for 3 or 4 holes, I would have broken 80.
But that guy's not Rory McIlroy.
Like, drink alone in his room? Like,
that guy's not Rory McIlroy.
I want the JT mentality. You don't think JT's still pissed off about what happened a year ago in LA?
Yeah. And it didn't do him any good.
You don't want him to carry it forward and be upset and then turn it into victories in the fall.
So if you were a sports psychologist, you would say get mad and carry this into next week.
Not to say carry it into next week, but at least carry it into the night.
He probably did carry
with your glass of bourbon.
You're also imagining he's telling the absolute truth to reporters. If he was in the locker room talking to his buddy, it might be slightly different. And he's going to be disappointed. You're always going to be because he gets. But he also, if it's me, and I am in the final group and I blow it, I'm a lot more disappointed because I don't know when my next one's coming. He's got another final group pretty darn soon.
Well, this is the
just
point.
Part of it.
Every week in, week out, Rory is finishing top 3, top 4, top 5. Every week, there's only a very small handful of men who are beating him on tour, which has got to be a positive thing to take away. He might not be getting the job done, but he's giving himself those chances to get it done, and he does get the job done.
Trophies are sexy, consistency's not. And every player wants consistency.
And he doesn't leave that tournament thinking, man, maybe I'm not the best in the world. He goes, I'm still the best.
I'm sure he believes he's still the best in the world, but I don't think he walks out of there with a smile and says, oh, that was a mini success. That was a mini success. That sound was before the tournament started. It was more of a big picture, long lens view than saying, hey, wait a second. Final group, I'm the best player in the world. I want this incredibly lucrative check and incredibly prestigious PGA Tour event on my mantle, and I let it go wanting.
You're not wrong, but you have to tell yourself opposite, and you do have to do exactly what he said.
But you got to chew on it. You got to chew on it a little bit, don't you? You got to chew on that bitter pill.
Oh God! No? Every golfer chews on that bitter pill all the time.
That's my whole life. I still wake up in sweats thinking about some of the dumb mistakes I made 10 years ago.
Should.
But I'm not Rory.
Send us your thoughts on the world #1, and for all of the latest golf news and discussions on the biggest topics in the game, be sure to subscribe below and tune in to Morning Drive every day.